We're now joined by two of the smartest political observers you're going to find. First, Julie Roginsky, Democratic strategist and president of Optimus Communications, and also Mike DuHaime, Republican strategist and partner at Mercury. Check them out every Sunday on the Star Ledger, Friendly Fire. You also find it on NJ.com. Enough plugging, all right? Let's get right to this. Julie, let me ask you, as we do this program on the 17th of November, it'll be seen after that, you have argued that President Trump's ego, president as we speak, his ego is subsuming the American experiment, which has worked pretty well, warts and all, for 244 years. Totally unprecedented, right?
Totally unprecedented, completely destructive, something that I think we could all get behind as Democrats, Republicans, Independents. This is not how you behave when you lose an election. And it's not how you behave, regardless of the outcome of what you look. He obviously wanted to win. Everybody wants to win, but you lose gracefully, you lose graciously. And then what you do is you turn over the levers of government on January 20th at noon to your successor. Before that, your successor really needs to be brought up to speed as to what's been going on. Joe Biden has not been getting any security briefings since he left the vice presidency, which means that he's got a COVID crisis to deal with. He's got foreign crises to deal with. Clearly, the president apparently is contemplating a strike on Iran before he leaves in January. He's contemplating a withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan. All of these things are things that the incoming president will have to contend with. And you cannot have him come into the White House at noon on January 20th, open up the drawer and say, oh my God, what has been going on? He needs to be brought up to speed now for the good of this country, if not for Donald Trump's ego.
Mike, this will be seen into the first quarter of 2021. What impact do you believe the transition or the lack thereof will have on actually dealing with the difficult public policy problems we have, top of the list, COVID?
Well, it's problematic. I don't think we'll know how problematic until time goes by. But the 9/11 Commission talked about the recount in 2000 participating to the Bush administration, maybe not transitioning as quickly as perhaps it could have. I don't know that anybody could have foreseen that, but it was something that was brought up in terms of the shortened transition time. I look back to 2008 when we were in the middle of an economic crisis, and President Bush and President-elect Obama actually formed a joint team to work on the economic crisis and how they were going to deal with it. And President Obama has said that allowed him to walk in the door noon of that day when he was inaugurated and take action immediately. Vice President Biden was vice president for 8 years, and he was in the Senate for a long time before that. It's not like he comes in as a novice, but clearly there's a lot going on. And I think as Americans, we all want him to be as prepared as possible. Whether you voted for him or not, I do think that you want him to be ready to go when he first goes in, especially when it comes to national security issues and COVID issues.
So let's talk about how polarized and divided we are. 74 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. Obviously, more voted for Joe Biden. But clearly, almost right down the middle. Julie, divided government, divided citizens, divided and polarized media, which you know better than most. Where's the silver lining?
I'm desperately trying to think of one.
Is there one? And don't make one up.
I can't wait to hear the answer.
Is that a trick question? You can't just spring this on me and expect me to come up with an answer.
I don't. Go ahead. Sure.
I guess the silver lining is Mike and I will have a lot to talk about every week because we do have a divided government. Aside from my own selfish interests here, yes. I don't know that there is. You know, I was hoping there was going to be a mandate one way or the other. Clearly, I was hoping there's going to be a wake-up call to the Republican Party. Look, I'm a big believer in a strong two-party system. We need a robust center-right party, the kind that Mike DuHaime represents. Frankly, the kind that Chris Christie represented for 8 years. I disagreed with him on virtually everything, but I understood that we needed to have two functioning parties. Right now, I feel like we don't have a functioning party anymore. Right now, I feel like 70 million people or more voted for a cult of personality because nothing that the Republican Party has stood for in my 47 years on Earth resembles anything that Trumpism represents. And the problem is that we no longer have a party, we have a cult of personality that is incredibly dangerous because that cult of personality is subsumed by a man who I believe is not mentally all there. I believe that it is subsumed to his ego. And what that results in is just a complete dereliction of any governing principle. It is whatever the whims of Donald Trump or his acolytes believe today. And that's a truly problematic if you're trying to govern, especially in a divided kind of government.
But we're moving forward. Say this is seen in February. He's no longer the president, Mike. Is there a Republican Party outside of Donald Trump, or will he be will he frankly consume all that oxygen and be the party for the next 4 years?
He has a lot of power to do that. As you mentioned, Steve, he got 73 million votes, the second most votes of anybody in history. And also Republicans held the Senate. They picked up seats in the House. There was, you could say there was a rejection for Donald Trump because Joe Biden just got a bigger win as a challenger than anybody since FDR during the Great Depression. So you could certainly see that there's a rejection of Donald Trump, but there was no rejection of center-right policies. In many states, there was an affirmation of center-right policies. In places like Pennsylvania, right next door, where Joe Biden won fairly comfortably once all the votes were counted, Republicans actually won 2 statewide offices for the first time in about 15 years. So I think what you're going to see in the Republican Party, to Julie's point, your question, Steve, is where do we go from here? I think what you're seeing right now during the recount or the whatever is happening with the
whatever it's called
going on right now, you're seeing many Republicans afraid to take on Donald Trump because he has power. He has so many Twitter followers. He's very popular still among the Republican Party base. He could make or break people in the 2024 primary or in 2022 primaries for governor and Senate. So he has great power right now. And the part that really embarrasses me as a Republican, I think there need to be more people who stand up and say the truth, which is this election was decided fairly and squarely. There weren't any crazy votes coming out of Philadelphia or Detroit or Milwaukee. Anybody who's done races in those states knows that those races look like they were decided properly, and we just need to say it.
So let's do that. By the way, stay right there. When we finish this segment, we have a series called Uncut. There's too much to talk about with Julie and Mike, so stay right there. We'll keep talking right after this. But Julie, I want to come back. Mike did not give a silver lining either, by the way. I just want to, Mike.
Mike's the happy one in this situation.
Julie for the silver lining. That was Julie.
No.
Julie had the
Okay, but here's the thing.
Mike is the happy warrior, not me.
Say that again, Julie.
Mike's the happy warrior, not me in this relationship. So that's really depressing.
Yeah, but here's the thing about you and Mike. Every Sunday in the Ledger when I read you, or I read you on NJ.com, it's called Friendly Fire. Check it out. The two of you, and I've said this to you before when we've had you, you disagree on a lot of things. You agree on some, but you're always respectful toward each other. You always respect each other's point of view, even if you don't agree or understand it. Why is that such, or seem to me to be at least, the exception, Julie?
Well, because if you see what happens in the algorithms on Facebook, the posts that get promoted are the ones that cause the most controversy. That's just how their algorithm works. If you look at cable television, the segments that get the most hits, the most viewers, are the ones that have the most tension, the most, debauchery, frankly, verbal debauchery. And so what ends up happening is it becomes almost a WWF, wrestling match, where people are no longer interested in hearing each other. It's about scoring points, and it's about who can punch each other in the face harder. That's what the media has become today, unfortunately. It's no longer the days when we used to all watch Walter Cronkite, not in my lifetime, but the David Brinkley and Sarah of the world. PBS, you know what? It's actually, that's a great point. PBS
okay.
is a great example of a bygone era. I absolutely agree with you on that. And I think what Mike and I try to do is have a respectful dialogue, because first and foremost, we also know each other. I think it's much more helpful to have a respectful dialogue when you know each other, you know each other's families, you know about each other's life. And so therefore you treat each other like human beings and not like punching bags, which is what you see on cable TV and on social media very often.
Hey, Mike, do me a favor, hold your point, because that's the end of this particular show. But check us out on Uncut for the follow-up conversation with Julie and Mike. I'm Steve Adubato. That's Julie. That's Mike. Catch you next time.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the North Ward Center, PSE&G, Suez North America, ADP, Valley Bank, the Adler Aphasia Center, NJ Best, and by the Fidelco Group. Promotional support provided by NJ On Air, and by CIANJ and Commerce Magazine.
The North Ward Center was founded on the vision that community is connected to neighborhood stabilization, and neighborhoods need a place for kids to play. That's why we're building a recreational complex in the heart of Newark. Unfortunately, inner-city youth development programs are dwindling. We want to expand on our promise and build a place where kids are welcomed and doors remain open. The North Ward Center, building a better community, 48 years and counting.